I can say with confidence that you, like me, have been burned before by viral TikTok recommendations. Well, I, for one, have been burned one too many times. But sometimes BookTok does get it right, and in this video I'm going to talk you through the times that BookTok has been worth my time, so you don't have to waste your time on bad BookTok recommendations and can get back to the stuff that you love doing, like doom scrolling. Before I get into my list, let's quickly talk about criteria. There are a number of things for me that make a book worth my time, and a book doesn't necessarily have to possess all of these things to be worth it. Specifically, this list is for books that are worth the hype because they are particularly original or creative or exceptionally well written, or they aren't necessarily a masterpiece, they're just a really positive, enjoyable read. And yeah, I know well written is a ridiculously broad phrase, but I feel like you know what I mean. First on my list, and this list is in no particular order by the way, is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. This book is about two friends who meet as children in hospital and then go on to pursue their dreams in video game design. I think from the outset, and this was kind of my experience reading the book, it's very clear that it's an intriguing original read, and it was only once I sort of got like further in that I realized how sentimental this book was. Like, it really also has this big theme of like exploring identity, and it actually does have quite gritty stuff in there, but you've got this really interesting game design backdrop. And I feel like sometimes when there's a bit of an original theme in a book, or sorry, like an original thread in a book, it can feel like the author just throws it in to fill words. So for example, like this book will have asides about video game design and like very clear references in the writing throughout, but it never feels like they're just trying to hit a word count. It's always relevant and it really enriches the reading experience. So yeah, it's just a very interesting, intriguing book. I feel, especially looking at the cover, it can sometimes, although I think the cover's great, but I also can see why you might look at it and be like, oh, this is just another like colourful BookTok book, I can give it a miss. Well, I recommend not giving it a miss. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is next on my list. So this is about an old Hollywood star, and the setting is basically her retired, reclusive, a lot older, telling her story to a journalist. There's a little bit of mystery around that as well, because you don't really know why. Like, she's previously been quite private and you don't really know why she's doing this tell-all, and then you have sort of the story of the journalist as well as sort of relevant, and you're like, what's going on there? Why do we care about her? So this was my first tailored Jenkins Reid book, and people always talk about how you enjoy the first book of hers that you read the most. I've actually only read Malibu Rising since, I haven't read any more, but her style is just really, really engaging. I think it's also really fun reading about famous people, even if they're fictional famous people. It just provides a fun little juicy layer to things. But yeah, this book has made it to the list because it's just incredibly easy to read, but it also doesn't, it's not like it totally lacks substance. You have these really fun little explorations of like morality. The characters have really good depth, especially the main character. She's sort of very powerful, has done bad things, but you're kind of left still empathizing with her. So yeah, just a really nice, easy read. Go give it a go if you haven't already. I'll be quite surprised if you haven't, because I feel like this book in particular I have seen all over the internet. Such a Fun Age is one that I think has been floating around for a while now, but I just want to remind you, if you haven't read it, to give it a read. It's about a young black woman who is babysitting a white child, and she gets accused of kidnapping the child. The incident itself doesn't actually take up much of the story, but it definitely sets the tone for the theme. Like, it's all about race and privilege, and there are some really interesting dynamics between her and the woman who employs her. And this book's on this list because it's hard to put down. Like, it's just a really sort of enjoyable read, but it also manages to explore like really complex topics in a way that's just so accessible. But then you also have a few like twists and turns sprinkled in. There's a bit of romance, there's a little bit of mystery. I'm Glad My Mom Died is a memoir by Jennette McCurdy, and it follows her between the ages of like 5, kind of earliest memories, to late 20s. I never actually saw her shows, but she was a star in iCarly and Sam and Cat. So she's a former Disney star, and she talks a lot about her mother and the creators on the sets of her shows. It's pretty grueling and difficult. And the title is there because her mum actually ultimately dies. So you end up also with this like grief story as well. It's on the list because it's incredibly well written. She actually talks about in the book how she was like, she wanted to be a writer but was made to become an actor. And you can tell like she's very good at kind of expressing herself. The book is also written from the point of view of her, obviously, but kind of her at that age, and I thought that was a really powerful thing. When you've got a sort of 8-year-old describing from their point of view abuse, you can really see how complicated it can be, and how in the child's mind like they are so vulnerable because of how they don't really understand what's going on. But yeah, it's just like really well written, and also deals in a very honest way with topics that are not spoken about loads. So definitely worth your time. Bunny is a book that I read quite recently, and there are some people have mixed feelings about this book, so I'm gonna tell you about it, and then I'm gonna tell you like why I think people don't like it. It follows our main character who is on a creative writing program that I think is known to be quite prestigious, and it's her versus the rest of her class, and the rest of her class are a group of girls who call each other Bunny and are just an incredibly cliquey friend group. And it's all a bit weird, it's all a bit hyper, they're sort of obsessed with each other, and they're also all very wealthy. And our protagonist only has one friend who she kind of confides in, and the book opens and she's kind of complaining about these girls to her friend. But do not be fooled, because this book is very weird. It's kind of culty and dark academia. A lot of the themes are around class, but you also have quite a sweet theme around home and belonging and just like friendship. So there's a lot going on, and it definitely feels like there's a lot going on, and a lot of people don't like the book because it's a little bit weird, and I think they feel like it loses structure. Sorry, I just don't want to like ruin it for you. And I do actually like get that, but I personally love it. Like, it really unravels, but I don't know whether it was the mindset or just who I am, but I absolutely embraced that unraveling, thoroughly enjoyed it. If you're looking for something to just like spark your imagination a bit and to just lose yourself in, Bunny is the book for you. So it's on the list because I just found it super original. I personally found it really like easy to read as well. There's a really nice rhythm to it, and a lot of intrigue because you have no idea what's going on. I won't say any more. I'm just gonna spoil it. I won't say any more. Speaking of cults, The Secret History is next on this list. I read this book a very long time ago, which is kind of weird because, and I had a little like fervent Google session when I was making this video, because The Secret History is actually like quite similar to Bunny. They're very different styles of books, but the whole thing of like classmates, dark academia, cults, like group of kind of academic students talking about fancy things, like there is huge crossover. And then there is also a main character in The Secret History called Bunny. So I wonder what the influence is there. I actually did Google it briefly and like nothing really came up, but if anyone knows what I'm talking about, please let me know if this is a thing and I'm not just like reaching. So The Secret History is narrated by a classmate who's kind of looking back on the events that occurred around a murder at his school. And it is long, but it is intriguing and it's not a hard read. If you're happy to read a long book, The Secret History is amazing. And also, I don't know if this counts as a positive for a book, but watching Donna Tartt's interviews as the author after reading the book was really enjoyable. Like, she speaks in a very satisfying way, and the interviews, like, a lot of them are from a while ago, and I just really enjoy all the things on YouTube about her. But yeah, again, you have those themes of like isolation, manipulation, class, and it's kind of spooky. It's like a little bit spooky. A very recent read for me, as you all well know by now, is A Little Life. And I was debating for a while as to whether to put it on this list because I'm still very in two minds about A Little Life. It is about a group of college students in New York finding their way, and at the center of their group is Jude. And slowly the book opens, kind of following the whole group, and you do get to know those characters. Like, it's a long book, so you do get to know those characters reasonably well, but ultimately the book is about Jude, who is mysterious, very intelligent, very beautiful, but has this kind of unknown, mysterious past. And the reason why I put this book on this list is because the story is so engaging and highly emotive. The writing is brilliant, and how it switches up like rhythm and point of view, and the way you just get into the characters' brains and right under their skin is just incredible. But the reason why I was unsure as to whether to put it on this list is that it is so gory and very upsetting. I'm still kind of looking into it and reading about it, but I don't know how to feel about the way some aspects of this book were written about by the author. Obviously, I don't want to spoil it. So if you want to read a very, very well written book, read A Little Life. But if you're not ready to be really upset and just be exposed to quite intense, relentless gore and violence, then don't read this book. And I just wanted to like say that because I do think a lot of people talk about A Little Life like you have to read it and it's one of the most important things that you do in your life. It's like a bucket list book. I do get it, but I also just think there are so many well-written books in the world and so many incredibly good books in the world, and they can definitely sit above A Little Life on your book list, and you're not less of a reader because they're higher up your TBR. Finally, a book that I actually, if I'm being honest, I haven't finished yet. I've got like 50 pages left, but I just really wanted to put it on here because it just fits exactly the criteria for this video, and that is Lessons in Chemistry. I thoroughly enjoy this book. Again, it's a bit of a like, you see it and you're just like, oh, there it is, another TikTok book, another colourful cover that's designed to entice me, and it'll just be like completely empty and boring. Sorry, look at this though. How cool is that? Ugh. So Lessons in Chemistry is about Elizabeth Zott, who is a chemist, but unfortunately she's a chemist in the 60s, and being a woman means she's had a pretty bad time of it so far. And she basically ends up being a chef, like a TV cook, but because she's got this background in chemistry, she kind of fuses the two. It's just an incredibly charming book, and I don't want to use that word, like I don't want that to make it sound like it's a book that lacks depth, because you do still have that depth, but I don't know, like it just is a very uplifting read, and you feel so connected to the characters, and it has little quirks, like it feels quite original. The premise is kind of original, but then you also have things like there's a dog in it, and you kind of see certain things from the dog's point of view, but then it's like still a very, like the book is a realistic book. Honestly, I would recommend this book to like most readers. I don't think there are any, unlike A Little Life, there aren't any like pre-warnings before you get into it. And maybe the last 50 pages will make me take everything back. I'll update you if that's the case, but like hopefully not. Imagine if the end's like and she woke up and it was all a dream. Oh god. Anyway, that is all from me. Oh, I completely forgot to tea check. Oh no. This is my chamomile. It's got a little metal hat on because it's loose leaf. I'm a loose leaf tea gal. Who'd have thunk it? This actually looks quite weird. Okay, apart from that, that's it from me. Thanks for watching. And thanks for being patient around. I feel like I haven't been as active recently, but that's because I started a new job and that's kind of stressful. Coming soon is my A Little Life book club, so if you want to watch that, keep an eye out. I think it's like the last Sunday of the month. Yes, that is what I said, last Sunday of the month. Okay, have a lovely rest of your day. Good luck for the week ahead, and goodbye.